No. All right. I'm gonna trade you 2 sheep for that wood. Tell me, honey, does that sound good? 'Cause all I really wanna do is take away longest road from you, yeah. Welcome to these tabletop sessions. Welcome to these tabletop sessions. Hello, fellow gregarious geeks and gamers, and welcome to the 36th episode of the Tabletop Sessions podcast. This is your monthly dose of tabletop gaming stories and shenanigans. My name is Elias, and with me is the molded, sculpted, tactilely satisfying Ippokratic.
This is the used to be a board gamer Ippo. Hi guys.
Well, you're not playing anything recently? You were just on vacation.
I was on vacation, and after vacation, I'm too busy at work. I'm so busy that the last 2 Tuesdays I didn't go to my board gaming group because I was tired. So there are 2 options to see this problem. One is that I was really tired because it was crazy busy at work, or I'm getting old.
Yeah, I was gonna say so my parents just came to visit. They're staying with us.
Okay, don't do this comparison me with your parents.
No, it's not to my parents. It's a comparison to me. So the weekend before they came, Dima was in Jordan for a wedding, so I was alone. My friends were getting together to meet up for a game, and I had so many chores to do before my parents came. I had like a list of things to do. And I looked at, Dima was like, "Oh, are you going to go meet up with the guys?" And I was like, "No, I can't go play a game and clean the backyard. That's too much. I need to take like a nap after I clean the backyard." So I totally feel you. I'm also,
because remember, 10 years before that was not a thing. Like, you're gonna clean the backyard and play board games.
Yeah, I'll clean the backyard while playing board games.
I feel that as we're talking, we're just losing listeners.
Yeah, nobody wants to listen to old people complaining about these newfangled games, but that's what you're getting.
And I'm not sure if people want to hear old people talking about board games. But
yeah, anyways. No, seriously, old people talk. So how's your back these days? Anyway, on that note, if you do want to hear more old people talk, we did launch a YouTube channel. It's nothing exciting. It's mostly just all our episodes. So a lot of people use YouTube to listen to podcasts for some reason. And if you're one of those people, that's now available. So the link for that will be in the description. And it's basically Tabletop Sessions. And you can check that out. There's also a couple of playthroughs. I'm trying out some solo gaming and putting it up there. So I found that when I was solo gaming, I talked to myself the entire time. So I was like, I'll record it. So I put it down and I talked to myself while I'm doing it. And I've been uploading them. And it's been fun. People seem to like them. So check those. I've been playing a lot of solo games because of that. Because like I gotta like remember the rules before I record it. So I do like 1 or 2 games to like shake off the rust. And then I play it on there. So I've been playing like Onirim, Castellian. I've just been playing a few games of Deep Space D6 and starting with the lighter ones. And then I'm going to eventually brave like a coin game like Cuba Libre.
Wow.
Or like Mage Knight or Renegade or something. But we're starting with simple ones. So, yeah.
Nice. And we can play something online later maybe.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Like TTS does TTS. That's my big idea. Tabletop Sessions does Tabletop Simulator.
Oh, TTS. That is what it means. Oh,
yeah, I've been messaging in the group chat. Apparently, Ippo's not been clear on it.
You know, yeah. I was driving and checking the messages. What is this? TTS makes TTS. Okay. Yeah.
Have you seen any of the? I assume you haven't watched any of the solo playthroughs.
No, not
because I still haven't got a reaction from you based on how I sign off every episode. So when you get a chance,
Oh,
watch the Castellian one. That's the better one so far, because I was
uh,
learning. The first one was an Irem, wasn't as good. I took feedback from like whoever watched it, and then I was like, okay, and then I adapted it. So like in the first one, like when I was thinking, I would just go, hmm. And Dima was like, instead of going, why don't you tell us what you're thinking about? I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
oh, that's
So
some
yeah,
useful feedback.
yeah, almost like the most obvious thing in the world. I should have really picked up on that one, but anyway, they're out there.
But
If you don't want to watch them, don't watch them. If you want to watch them, hey, watch them.
yes,
So
sorry, man, I didn't have the time. The last 2 weeks were crazy, as I said before, and before that, I was busy just playing Hegemony. Like I don't play. I feel like I don't feel like it. It's like for the last 40 or 50 days, I was just playing Hegemony.
I like how you
I
say you're busy playing Hegemony.
no, no,
Like
I mean I was busy.
you're never busy playing a board game. You're free, so you're playing a board game.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So I was busy the last couple of weeks, but before that, I was only playing Hegemony. I have now 8 plays in my list. I have played all different combinations and solo, 3 player, 4 player, all the different factions. I have taught the game to probably at least 10 new players.
Wow,
Uh, it's a very long game, and it's like 6 hours long with teaching.
it's a
And
Greek conspiracy. You've teamed up with this designer to promote his game for sure.
could have been 7 out of
Yeah.
8 times that I played, I have to teach the game also because
Whoa.
there was always a new player. Only once we managed to play 3 players with another 2 players that already knew the game.
Yeah.
Uh, I was also at the same time every day I was checking for new posts in the Board Game Geek forum of Hegemony, uh, and there was like this big discussion as always about which faction is the most powerful, and they were people saying, oh, the capitalists are very weak. In my group, it's always the working class winning. Other players were saying, oh no, the state is always winning. So in every group there was a different opinion on that. So I
Which
started
I think by itself kind of dissuades the point, right? So
exactly.
the way you play, maybe one faction might be more powerful, but if you play a different way, then it might end up being, which is a good thing. That's a good thing in board games. So
Exactly. But still, I started a spreadsheet
of
that
course you did.
everybody can go, and I post it in Board Game Geek, so everybody can go there and post their scores, and we keep track of them, and we have some percentages of what faction might be more powerful in a 3 player game, or maybe less powerful in a 4 player game, and things like that. So
Nice.
we do this. But still, we were having a great time.
Are you still
Uh,
as high as you were on it? Like you were saying, like 9 out of 10. Are you still at that level?
yes, my only concern now is that I'm really tired after playing the game. But that happens because we play on a Tuesday, on a working day. So
Yeah.
last time we started like 6:30. Teaching went to 7:30. We play in a cafe, so you have to
Yeah.
order things, and there's things going on at the same time around you. And we were playing up to 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
It was like 12:30 that, and the waiters are just waiting for us. But but I feel terrible about it. Uh, it was the last
This is
round,
sounding
and
like a common theme now. Because the last time you talked about this game, we had the same conversation about waiters waiting till 2 a.m. for you.
but that
So,
time it was Ramadan, so they were actually working to till
but
2
but I
a.m.
think that I think we should look at this and be honest about what it is. You, the wealthy, are oppressing the working class, by imposing your freedom and right to play games, forcing them to work longer hours, probably of which they do not get paid overtime. And I think they
What,
should seize the means of production.
it's true,
Anyway.
while at the same time pretending that I am the leader of the working class.
That's what we like to do as people that don't understand our own privileges. We like to pretend we're from the lower class and that we're struggling. But let's be honest, we're really spoiled people by definition if we could spend hundreds of dollars on games. Anyway.
The repeating also thing in this theme in this playing Hegemony is that I always lose, and as I play more, I lose with a larger gap. I become worse in this. This have never happened to me before. I mean, there are games that I'm not good at and I'm not playing well, and there are games that I'm playing good, or there are games that you start without knowing the game, and then as you play, you learn how to play better. So in this game, I play worse every time.
That's
And
hilarious.
I don't have an explanation on this. Maybe it's because I start to think that I know the game and I try to repeat things. Also, I have one win with the capitalist class, only one win in the 8 games.
Was it your first game?
It was my second game.
Oh, damn. It would have been so nice if it was your first. They just
but it was,
start at the top and steadily decline.
but it was my first game with the capitalist class.
Okay.
And it's funny how
It's who you are, so you instinctively understand the nature of it. So
It's funny because in the last round, Vicky, who plays the middle class, has calculated everything and she thinks she wins by 2 points. And she asked me at the last minute, okay, I still have a loan. You didn't say anything about losing points if I have a loan at the end of the game. I said, yes, I didn't, but of course you're gonna lose some points, probably. Let's find out. And we check the rule book, and she loses like 3 points, and and I win by 1 point.
you pulled a Ricardo.
In what I said, a typical capitalist way.
You withheld the information. You put it in the fine print, so they wouldn't be able to find it until they were fucked over. So
Vic is a very smart girl, and she should have known better.
Oh, maybe she just hasn't known you as long as the rest of us have. But that's more of a Ricardo move, keeping a rule in his back pocket until it's necessary. So.
The other last thing that I want to say about the game is that every time we play the game, the new players want to play again. The next day, people are texting me saying, "I'm still thinking about what happened yesterday."
Yes.
And 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, when we finished the game, we were standing up outside of the cafe just to discuss the strategy and what we did wrong and what we did right in the game. So
that's amazing.
It has all these elements that
that's always been like that's how I know I love a game, right? So when I first played Virgin Queen, which is my favorite game, there's so many aspects of it that I wouldn't normally like, right? Like the diplomacy aspect is harsh, the dice rolling is rough. I'm not a fan of that stuff. So after the first time I played it, I rated it like an 8 out of 10. And then 2 weeks later, I was still thinking about it. Like literally 2 weeks went by, and every day of those 2 weeks, I thought about that game. And I was like, no, this is better than what I've given it. Then I played it again, and for like another 2 weeks, I was thinking about it. And I was just thinking, you know what? If a game can take up that much of my mind and make me feel engaged that way, who cares if there's the luck aspects or that, whatever it is, it's done a good job about like carving out its space in my brain. And that's how I kind of ended up with like that being because like when I played Leaving Earth, initially I was like, oh, this is my favorite game. But I didn't think about it for that long afterwards. So that's kind of how I broke the tie between the two. So.
Elias, my friend, I think this is the way with every romantic relationship. if you
Yes, indeed.
if you're still thinking about him or her the next day,
That's
right?
right. Me and Queen Elizabeth. That's a match made in heaven. The first, please. For shame, the other one just died. Anyway, speaking of the working
Speaking of the
class,
working class, okay, I want to see how you're gonna go with
I,
this.
I've been playing. Well, I've been playing a game called Factory Funner. Uh, I've played it 7 times, but 6 times in a row were in 2 days. Like it was. I don't know if that tells you what you want to know about it.
Wow.
Basically, it's a light game. And I got the new, not new, but the newer Kickstarter version. And basically, the idea of this game is it's a tile laying game, and you have these four like source raw materials, which are like pink, yellow, blue, and green, right? And basically, uh, every turn you flip over a couple of machines that do different things, and then you grab the machines from the center, and then you take your time and you place them on your factory floor, connecting them with like tubes that connect the raw materials that feed them in certain points, and then they also have outputs, right? And the outputs could be end products, which are just like unusable because that's the end product, or they can make other uh, raw materials, so like more pink or more green or more yellow or whatever. And if you feed another machine from the end product of another machine. So if you feed one product for the end product of another machine, you get like multiplier points at the end of the game. So you're trying
Oh,
to make the machines combo up while you only have one of each raw material source. So if you have multiple machines that need pink or green, the best way to do it is to use other machines plus source materials to like combo whatever.
is there a theme
Um,
on the game? I mean, what's green and
yeah,
pink
you're
and
building a factory floor. That's the theme of the game.
so these are so green is a green tile on your
I
factory.
also want to point out that it's like a 15-20 minute game. Like it's a filler. So um, they didn't have much time to flesh out the lore of the game.
But the concept, it's my favorite concept in a video game. I mean, I love Factorio and games
Yeah,
like that.
it's that. Yeah. And the thing is, whilst you can redo like where the tubes go, you can never move a machine once you place it. So there's a level of commitment that you have once you place a machine. Um, so then I played it with 2 players, and I've played it solo once. The other 6 times were 2 players. It can play up to 4, and I think it might be have other elements that come into the game at 4, because there's also like a penalty for grabbing the tile first. So if you grab the tile that you want the most, you get -1 money when you're scoring. And if you were the last one to take a tile, you get +1, and you can also choose not to place the machine without taking any like penalty. Whereas everyone else, if they choose not to place the machine after grabbing it, they lose a couple of bucks, right?
Oh.
So, so there's benefits. So the interesting thing about the game is every piece that you're playing onto your board costs money. You can then like remove the tubing, but then the tubing that you place to replace it, that also costs money. So when you're placing, you're kind of caught between building the tile for cheap versus, oh, but I really want to connect the end product of this machine to feed the source of this other machine. So because that gives me end game points at the end of the game. So you're caught between building for cheap now and trying to maximize end game points by comboing it off. So it actually leads to really tough decisions. And the way to like think about it, like I'm really bad at spatial reasoning games. Like games like Akratiri. Like I can never really figure out where things are in relation to each other. But Dima's way better at it than me, and she always whoops me at those games, and she complains, "Oh, you're taking so long." And you know me, I don't AP very much, but in spatial reasoning games, I AP. What's interesting about this game is Dima takes longer than I do to play her turn. So it's really a mind fuck in terms of its spatial reasoning because you have so many potential options of where to place everything.
It's funny
Um,
because I was thinking I was gonna AP in this game. I
For
mean,
sure.
you said it's a short game though,
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes. Yeah.
but
Um,
you need your time to take your time and think about how
no,
because
even with the AP, it's 20 minutes because you're only placing 8 machines the whole game, so there's only 8 rounds. So if each round took you 4 minutes, it'll take you half an hour.
really
So yeah.
with
So
eight
yeah, that's
placements they made the
yeah.
game.
Yeah, that's it. The whole game is 8 placements. But each placement, you're like, should I change what I already have or should I just start a new thing? So, like, you have to think about all your other connections. So it gets increasingly more complex. And you also want to leave room and, it's really good. So another thing I like about it is that real time element at the beginning of the game where you flip over the tiles and then you got to grab. So, like, there's this, like,
Oh,
first of all, it makes it a
Galaxy
little less
Tracker
serious.
stuff.
Yeah. It takes away some of the seriousness of it. And it also leads to hilarious decisions where the person grabs something that they think, would be better for them, but then it fucks over their entire factory floor. And and you're like, okay, great. Like, I get a bonus point, and this one's actually better for me. So thank you. But because of that sped up element, there's a way to play it without it. But I think that's a good thing in the game.
It sets
Um,
up the feeling of the game. Sets
yeah, the mood. Yeah.
the mood. Yeah.
Um, and what's nice also is, with spatial games, Dima usually kicks my ass. But in this so far, I've won like 2 out of 3. I win, she wins 1 out of 3. So it's like, yeah, it's a mind fuck spatially, but at least I'm not like terrible at it every time we play it.
How many
And
players is this?
it can take 4, I think. So
But you have played
actually,
only solo and two, right?
let me check. It can take 6. I apologize. It can play up to 6 players. Um,
Oh,
and it comes with 6 boards. You can each pick side A, which is all of you have an identical factory floor, or you can flip over to side B, and every floor is different, right? And it's actually ranked in difficulty from 1 to 6. So you can compensate. So if, let's say, I'm playing with a bunch of new people, I could take the most difficult factory floor, and then I can give the easier ones to the new people so that they can work around it. So
fascinating. That sounds very interesting.
yeah. Well, I think all you really need. I had a good time. I mean, I'm not going to say it blew my mind. I played it before I did the top fillers, and it didn't make my top fillers, but it did make Dima's top fillers, which she posted on our Board Game Geek Guild. So go check that out if you'd like to see it.
Oh,
But
interesting.
basically, at the end of each game, every time I'd beat her, Dima would go like, okay, let's play again. Then we'd play again. I'd win. Then she'd be like, oh, okay, one more time. And then she'd beat me and she'd be like, okay, I'm good now. Then the next day she was like, do you want to play Factory Funner? I was like, yeah. So I won the first one. She's like, okay, one more. So we played another one. She's like, okay, just one more. I swear, one more. And then she beat me. She's like, okay, I'm good.
Again, that's a good indicator about the game.
Yeah, I
That's a,
think so. I think this is a game that will stay because it gives a nice puzzly challenge, and it can play up to 6, and it plays from 1 to 6. So it's fun solo. It's fun at 2. I imagine it'll be more fun with 4 or 5 people because you're
but
you're doing it at the
but
same
it's
time.
20
So
minutes with two players, right?
yes, but you're playing at the same time, so it doesn't
Oh, all
matter.
right.
You don't take turns in
Oh,
the game.
oh,
So
that's oh yeah, I love
assuming
this
no one
kind of
takes
games.
longer than Dima's turns, it
I
should be the same time. All right. So yeah.
I love these kind of fillers. Yes, when you
So
when they
Factory
offer.
Funner, yeah, exactly. I'd love you to try. I think you'd like it. I'm glad I backed it on Kickstarter. I tried to get it 1 or 2 times at Math Trades, the older version, and I never did. And I'm glad, and honestly, I'm glad I ended up with this version just because the box is smaller. Like it's, you don't want a game like that taking up a huge spot on your shelf. But it's a great game. I enjoy it. It's not breaking any like minds and like shattering any uh new dimensions or frontiers, but it's a great game. I like it. I'm going to keep it. I think this is one, you can find a lot of people to play it. People that like puzzles, people that like trains, people that like factory games on Steam and stuff. So it's got a lot of different ways that it will come out. It's quick, it's fast. The real time aspect takes away from the seriousness of it. So yeah, recommended. Factory Funner. Check it out if you get a chance.
Now, speaking of a Kickstarter, I was actually there is a friend in the board game group, and he was selling some of his games secondhand, and one of them was Palm Island, and I remember you said that it's a very good solo game.
No, I said
Okay,
it's a
maybe
solo game. I didn't say
it's
it's a
not.
very good solo game.
That's what I remember. That you said you're playing in the airplane and you can just keep it in one hand, and
I said it was clever because you don't need a surface to play the game on. You could just use your hand. But I don't think it's a good game at all.
okay. Thank you, Elias, for spending $20 on this, because I bought the game, and Ahmed promised me that he will bring the game, and the next time he will be in the board game group. So for the last 3 months, it didn't happen for us to be at the same Tuesday in the in the same game night.
By Ahmed, do you mean AK?
No, another guy.
Because AK has the game as well. So.
Oh yes, he has a game, correct. So I feel like it's a Kickstarter now. Like I committed 3 months ago, and I'm still waiting for the game for the game to come.
Well, I'm excited for how disappointed you're going to be once you get it.
Oh my god. Anyway, the other game I would like to talk today, and I'm gonna make the disclaimer that I played this game last summer, is King's Dilemma. So going from the working class back to the capitalist class, let's let's see how this works. So King's Dilemma was a game that was brought to me in actually in the Christmas of 2021, but it's a campaign game, cooperative, and I wanted to make a group of people that will be committed to play the whole campaign. And from the information I had, it was like they told me that it's gonna take something between 10 and 12 games to finish. So that happened last summer, and we started playing the King's Dilemma. It's a game where you draw cards. It's a story-driven game. You draw cards. The cards tell you the story, and the whole company has to take a decision. The 5 players are representing 5 families in the same kingdom. One of them is the king, and new proposals for laws might come with the different cards, or maybe we have an offer from a neighboring kingdom for cooperation or something like that, and we need to make a decision always on this. The interesting thing about this game is that the actions, the decisions that we make have both a short and a long-term effect in the kingdom. So they immediately affect somehow the kingdom, but at the same time, the game there is a game mechanism where the game remembers that you have taken this decision, and it might lead the kingdom to a different path. The immediate effect in the kingdom is that actually it's just 5 different columns showing the level of culture, science, power, wealth, and food in the kingdom. That's all. And when you start the game, you take randomly a card, and the card might say that, you are this family, and in this game, your goal is to maximize the power of the kingdom, while other players have a completely different goal maybe for this game. So each game, how the campaign works, each game you represent a different generation of your family. So in every game you're gonna represent the same family, but in the first game You are like the first generation. In the second game, you represent the second generation. So thematically, this shows why you have a different goal in the second game from the first game, which is a very nice mechanism. I like that.
Yeah, it's very clever.
Yeah, so maybe the father of the family was all about money and being greedy, but the daughter of the family now is all about power.
Yeah.
And the game has this, it's a legacy game, so all these events, laws, new rules that are coming in the game, they all have a permanent effect in the game in the form of stickers or new, stickers that are representing new rules or for the game.
Quick question. I've been scrolling through it because I remember Arseni talked about it a few episodes ago, which is actually a few years ago at this point. But why is it so fucking ugly? Like, there's no color in this game. The only color is on the cover. It looks like it's so bad. Is there a reason for it to look like this? Like, why couldn't they put a bit more effort into it?
I'm gonna say it probably suffers of the terraforming Mars problem, where the artist is a relative of the designer. Or maybe, I don't know. I just throw this out there. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think that's
like
the
your
reason.
conspiracy theory.
Because it's like, you're right. I mean, it's like a spreadsheet, like printed, and you just have a token, and if it moves, if the power moves up, then you move up the token. If it moves down, you move down the.
Yeah, and people say like food chain magnate is ugly, but yeah, maybe food chain magnate, like the board is boring, but like the art on like all the cards and the your pyramid and like it's nice. It has the right color tone for the era and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Yes. This one just has like this super dramatic cover with like deep royal reds and gold and a man with a grayed beard putting his forehead in his palm, and then you open it and it's like, here's the world's biggest three-track board, and that's the whole game. Like,
maybe they spend all the money on the cover.
It's very possible. Yeah.
But I have to say that the graphic design supports the game. We didn't have any problems with that because, as I said, the whole game is what I described to you. So it's just 5 tokens moving up and down.
Yeah.
And at the same time, maybe some stickers adding to the rules.
But I feel like maybe they could have, like, I don't know. I haven't played it, but like, imagine you make the game smaller, make it more card based, and then just use a smaller track. You're kind of like, I don't know. It's a big ass box, and when I look at it, I can't imagine what's in the box. Like, I keep looking at it laid on tables, and I'm like, why is the box so big? Like,
so we have 2 options: either to ask them why they did that, or we can also check the new version of the Queen's Dilemma that is coming out.
Okay.
Anyway, so the basic thing about my experience with this game is that I played this game 9 times, which means that we were very close on finishing the campaign. According to my friends here, probably we had like 1 or more games to play. And at that time, we lost one of the players of the group. And when I say we lost him, I mean he left Doha.
I was going to say sorry for your loss. But,
no, I mean, sorry for your loss. I guess it's still standing.
No. But the Queen's Dilemma looks way better, by the way. You're out. I'll challenge.
Yeah, so they got the feedback already.
Yeah.
So the thing is that because they were like, I think 3 or 4 people here that they have played the game before, all of them, they offer themselves to replace the missing player in order for us to finish the campaign. And they were all very excited, even if they knew the the campaign, even if they knew the story. They were very excited to play a game.
Yeah.
So this shows that there is even some replayability in the game, or you might say that it shows that it's not about the story; it's about the experience, because we really had a great time playing that game. There was always, debates on should we go and help the people, or should we go and leave the people die because that's the true thing about our religion. Or, I mean, you have to support ridiculous positions usually, just because your goal tells you to do so, and that I guess that makes the game fun.
Yeah.
That's
It looks super. I've always had like a part of me that's attracted to it, but the other part of me just remembers what it's like arguing with board gamers, and it can be exhausting. And I'm just wondering if that translates. So, for example, like arguing with somebody about I'm talking about Basil. So like arguing with Basil about a rule, right? Like you're going over like what this means in 1846, right? Like that was exhausting. Or like
but that was a serious argument. I mean, you were really supporting your. I mean, you had.
I'm talking about 1846.
You had thought about the rule and you were thinking, okay, no, this is correct. You were trying to actually convince somebody. But imagine if you try to convince somebody for something that you really know it's ridiculous, like doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if it's as exhausting.
So it's more funny than exhausting.
Okay.
Okay, let me say this. Let me explain this. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months after the last game we played, I don't have the appetite to continue the campaign. The other players, I feel that they do have the appetite. But for me, I mean, I really don't care how this story ends. So I was not, engaged with the story, I feel. And I realized, I said before that it's a cooperative game. It's not a cooperative game at all.
Yeah.
It's
a good thing you said it was cooperative. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I realized that. Why did they say that? It's not a cooperative at all. You have a short-term goal, the card that you draw in each game, and in the end of the game, you see who wins. So who fulfilled most of his goals. Yeah. But at the same time, your family has a long-term goal.
Okay. I do like that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So this part is nice. But the problem is that...
Do you remember we played... sorry to interrupt you, because it's on what you were just talking about. The Banner Saga. We played it cooperative. Did you remember that game?
Yes.
It was... Yeah. So that game has a lot of problems. Like, I basically keep it because of the art. I love the art style. But one of the things that's interesting in that game is you get these decisions to make, right? And every player of the 4 has a role, right? You're either the Jarl or you're the quartermaster or whatever it is. And you're given incentive to want to argue something in a particular direction. So when a decision comes, it says, oh, this decision is between the Jarl and the quartermaster. The quartermaster might be leaning one way because their ultimate goal is to have food, right? Whereas the Jarl is thinking about loyalty and whatever it is. So it gave you incentive to have that argument. And me and Dima always talk about the fact that it was one of the few co-op games we liked because it was clear, like when you're arguing for something, it made sense. Whereas in co-op games, usually you just argue because you think you have the better strategy, right? Whereas in this one, you're arguing because that's what your character would like. So it introduces that role play element to things. And that's what you're reminding me of with this. Like, you're not arguing with a person because they actually think that they're smarter than you and this is how to win the game. They're arguing because that's what their character in the game would like to do, which takes out a lot of the emotion. So I think by that, it would kind of make things, I imagine, might make things easier because you're role-playing a character and a perspective rather than...
You would think so. So I think you hit the point there. I mean, when I was playing the game, I was focusing on winning. I was focusing on these short-term goals that I had, and I'm pretty good at this. So I was winning a lot of games, but I was missing. I feel I missed the role-playing part.
Okay.
I should have. So as I remember when we talked about Oath, like in the previous episodes, I feel it's the same thing. We should have more. I should have more enjoyed the role-playing part of the game, rather than focusing on winning these short-term goals that nobody cares about. But at the same time, it's not my fault that the game gives me these goals, and the game tells me that if I fulfill these goals, I will win this particular game of the campaign, right? This session. So I feel that it might have been more helpful if the game would had told me that it's a co-op game or a semi-co-op game or something like that.
Gotcha. Because it gives you something to balance in your head.
Exactly. So then, I will just let go and just enjoy the ride.
Maybe there should be like a overarching win condition that must be met at minimum. Otherwise, everyone loses. Like the kingdom enters like a failed kingdom state or whatever. So you have to. I don't know. I'm just talking. Literally recommending things to a game I haven't played.
I think there is this thing. So there are ways where you can steal the win by doing something bad to the kingdom, but then you are going to the dark side. So in the long-term goals, you can win by achieving the goals of the family, but there are also some dark points that you I don't know how else to explain, because it's 9 months, so I really don't remember that part. But I remember that you are also gaining dark points, and you might win by gaining the most of the dark points. So by actually destroying the kingdom.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's very cool. The King's Dilemma.
That was the King's Dilemma, and I will update you. I will keep you posted if we finish the game, hopefully
Please
this summer.
do. And if nothing, it's a very interesting concept of like to think about how that kind of game can be best, implemented. And I find it very interesting.
It is.
So as you guys know, I've been hinting about it for a while. I've been playing Frosthaven and Gloomhaven Digital at the same time. And I wanted to compare them. I mean, if you remember back in episode 23, if you're a long-time listener, we had a discussion about Frosthaven being on Kickstarter, and I went on a huge rant about it's Gloomhaven in the snow. It's Gloomhaven in the snow. Everything's better in the snow.
The worst argument ever.
And honestly,
everything is better in the snow.
I think I said Yogi Bear 3D.
Oh my God.
Was a movie about bears, and The Revenant was a movie about bears in the snow. And The Revenant's a good movie, and Yogi Bears.
That was your argument, yeah. Now that you moved in Toronto, do you still believe that everything is better in the snow?
Yes, I love winter, but yeah. Anyway, so I was right. Basically, Frosthaven is Gloomhaven in the snow, and there are differences, but if you know how to play Gloomhaven, there's very little for you to learn to play Frosthaven. So there's some differences in combat, but it's basically identical. I'll be honest with you. Like it's like that, like just they're so close. Like,
but is it at least more content?
No. There are a bunch of differences in that. I'm going to get to that. I'm just saying the combat, which is the main gameplay, is essentially the same. Yes, there are slight differences, but I just want to say, if you were not sure, it's Gloomhaven in the snow.
and that's a good thing, I guess, because people were
that's a good thing.
Excited with the combat that was the whole thing.
Definitely. And I think it would have been a bit overwhelming if it was so different in terms of the combat mechanisms from Gloomhaven, just because everything looks so similar and it's Frosthaven, Gloomhaven. It would have been very confusing to keep both games straight in my head, especially if you're like me and you're playing both at the same time. So, uh, yeah, so it's Gloomhaven in the snow. Let's set that as the baseline. Now, some of the differences I've been enjoying. The starting characters, the 6 starting characters, they give you a couple of basic ones and then some more complex ones. And I really like that because I felt like the starting characters in Gloomhaven, and that's been supported by my actual campaign, physical, and my digital version. Um, they're much simpler in Gloomhaven. They're much more, I'm a ranged guy. I hit from a distance, or I'm a tank. I take damage. Um, whereas now you have even the starting characters, like the 2 easy characters, still a bit more interesting. You have the Banner Spear, who's like everything's based on positioning of people, and then at the medium level you have like the Deathwalker, who uses shadows to like appear and damage and then go back through the shadows, almost like a Nightcrawler style of thing. You can imagine it. And then you have really complex ones like the Geminate, which is like you have 2 different smaller hands and you're going between these 2 characters. So like rather than have a hand of 14 cards, you have 2 hands of 7, and you keep swapping between these 2 hands. It's interesting
Wow.
stuff. Yeah, so I'm glad I went with like a medium level because I guess I wasn't super experienced at Gloomhaven. Because when I looked at the complex ones, I was like, I think I'll go medium. And Dima went, basic, which is good because she had never played Gloomhaven. I should say I've played recently between Frosthaven and Gloomhaven Digital. I've played almost 30 times between the two, so I'm not an expert on anything, but I've got some plays. So another thing I really like that made things a little easier is that they have these quest line boards. So they're these boards where you like peel off layers to unlock quests as they appear, but they're color
Oh,
coded, and you can tick off the ones you've done. Because I remember when Sergio and I were playing the physical version of Gloomhaven, we stopped playing for a while, and then we came back and we had no clue what we had done and what we hadn't done, and it wasn't super obvious. We had to go through like the board and the book and see what we had checked off, and another thing they've done, which I really liked, is they've added this thing called inspiration. So every time you successfully finish a mission, you get X minus, sorry, 4 minus X inspiration points, where X is the number of players. So the game plays up to 4. So basically, if you're 4 players, you never get inspiration. But if you're 2 players, you get inspiration. And what you can do is you can spend that inspiration when you save it up to unlock stuff more quickly. And that's really good because the big unlocks in the game happen when a character retires. And as you
sorry.
can imagine,
You get this as a group, the inspiration?
yeah, you get it as a group. So as you can imagine, if you're 4 characters around the same time, 4 characters are going to retire, a whole bunch of things are going to get unlocked. Whereas if you're 2 players, only 2 characters are going to retire. So you get less stuff. So you can use this inspiration to unlock, basically get extra unlocks. So it speeds up the process for parties with less than 4 players. So 4 characters. So I like that a lot. It was a nice balancing mechanism. And so far, I do think the writing is better in Frosthaven. But so now let's talk about. So these are things to keep in mind.
Sure, the
The
writers
other
are the
thing,
same.
no, I think they got a lot of like guest writers for this one. Whereas I
Oh,
think the original one was a lot of Isaac just writing everything. So
mm.
I don't know if that's the case, but or if he just took feedback. But whatever it is, so far I'm much more engaged with the writing in Frost. I'm not saying it's gonna replace a fantasy novel for me, but it's more engaging than that of Gloomhaven. Um, it gives you sort of moral choices initially, and also there's less missions that are just kill everybody, which is great because I never was a big fan of those kinds of missions. Sometimes it's like escape, or go and
Oh,
activate this device that you found. So
nice.
it makes it a little more engaging, yeah, a little more interesting than just murder everyone. So that's good. The other major difference is the city versus the outpost phase. And this is good and bad, if I'm going to be honest with you. So In Gloomhaven, between missions, you'd go back to Gloomhaven to do the city phase. And in the city phase, you'd go buy stuff. You'd go um, make a donation to get blessings for your next mission. That was it. Build a character, retire a character. That's it. Upgrade a character. The outpost phase, things happen to Frosthaven as an outpost. And you kind of like are shared in the responsibility of taking care of it. So you have like, you're building the walls of Frosthaven. You're upgrading the
Oh,
defenses, the barracks. You're building new kinds of buildings that give you new abilities. You're building these things that give you the ability to get snow climbing gear or like a sled in the snow, which
sorry.
you
So
yeah.
can something happen when you are in a...
Yes, so they can
Wow.
attack you. So in the outpost
Oh,
phase, you can get raided, right? And you're drawing from an outpost deck. And there's seasons. So in the
man.
winter, you're more likely to get attacked than in the summer. So you're gonna build up your defenses in the summer, and when you get attacked, you got to rebuild the stuff, and stuff like that. So I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a lot more to that, which is good and bad. One, it really made the time between missions a lot more interesting. Like when I played Gloomhaven, I was sort of disappointed in the fact that the game was 98% missions. Now it's like 80% missions, 30% outpost phase, which is nice. 20%, sorry, 20 to 30%
I was gonna
outpost.
say 8 and 30 is amazing.
Listen, when I do things 110%. Okay. um,
Nothing less.
but to be honest with you, it's super fiddly. Like the outpost phase is
Oh,
super fiddly. Like I just, they could have made it kind of like a really basic city building game, borrowed from something with tiles and just replaced the tiles with stickers. But
yeah.
instead, it's this like super fiddly. You go through this deck of cards of stuff you've unlocked and look at this part of the card. And if you flip, it's kind of a pain in the ass. And every time I
Mm,
get to it, I have to open the rule book, because I don't play 10 games in a row in one week, because
yeah.
I got a job and stuff. So, like, instead, it's like, I
That's
got
your
to open the
fault.
rule book. Yeah, it's my fault. I apologize. I got to open the rule book and go through the different steps. And so it's a little annoying, but it still fleshes out the world more. So I'm glad it's there, but sometimes it pisses me the fuck off. So that gives you your idea of that. The other thing
Okay.
that they've added, so loot in Gloomhaven was just coins. In this game, there's loot. So when someone dies, they drop a loot token. And the loot comes from a loot deck. So, it could be anything. It could be skin. It could be metal. It could be hide. It could be flowers that you can use to make potions by mixing it with different herbs. And you go to it's cool,
Or just put it
But,
in a vase.
but, but the problem is every single mission has a different loot deck that you have to make for the mission. So you have to shuffle the wood cards, take out this number, shuffle the
Uh,
the metal cards, take out this number, put them all together. And I'm like, dude, couldn't you just have one basic loot deck and then you draw out of that loot deck and once it's gone, it's gone. Like, why did you have to make my life so difficult? So there's an
uh,
issue. Again, it's a positive and a negative. It makes
exactly.
loot interesting because you want to collect different things because there's like a little board where you can mix different things. And the first time you mix it, you take off a little tab.
Oh,
You
that's
don't
so
know what it's going
nice.
to create. It's awesome. But it's a pain in the ass to make the loot deck every single time you play the game. And it's a different loot deck for every mission. So they added so many interesting things, but they dramatically increased the fiddliness and the pain in the ass of setup and teardown of the game.
Uh,
So I don't want to go on forever, and I could. So I want to talk about what I've been doing, which is playing Frosthaven Real Life and Digital Gloomhaven. Digital Gloomhaven, I've been playing with Mo, and we've been each playing two characters, so we have a full party of four. In Frosthaven, it's impossible for me to manage two different characters because there's so much stuff happening. The digital version just does so many things automatically; you don't have to worry about it. And we're playing with just two characters. Um, One of the things that's huge, obviously, is the setup and teardown time. Like, it takes me, a good amount of time to set up a scenario, like 20 minutes or so, and to tear it
uh,
down. Like, you add that together, that's almost an hour of just
yeah.
setup and teardown time if I've already unpacked the game. If the game happens to be in the box, add another 20 minutes to that. So it's an hour. Um, and we just played so many more Gloomhaven games in the same amount of time that we played Frosthaven games, because you can play 2 scenarios in a couple hours, in 2-3 hours. But
Yeah.
you can't do that in Frosthaven because setting up the scenario is already an hour, and setting up and tearing down. So that is the main benefit of playing the digital version. However, in the physical version, I felt much more of a connection to my characters. And that's probably because they're so annoying to manage, right? Like, because it takes so because it's a pain in the ass to manage their goal and their battle goals and their retirement goals, and you're picking through the cards and picking which one enters your hand, and wait, did I pick this one? No, this one goes back in the box. You kind of get a connection to your character. You're like,
And,
okay, like, yeah.
and because you are spending more time with them.
Yeah, that's probably it. It's probably what you're supposed to do with kids too, right? Like,
Exactly.
if you
This
spend
is
more
how you
time
make
with them, you give more of a
friends.
shit about them. Yeah. The digital versions, I don't give a shit about my characters. Like, I really don't. Like, whenever it comes up, it highlights, oh, you need to do this. So I click something, I click a choice, and it goes
Oh,
from there. And another thing is, Mo's never played the physical version. And the difference between his understanding of how enemies will act versus my understanding, there's like a chasm. Because when you play the physical version, you have to move the enemies. So you have to understand the way the AI works. Whereas in the digital version, you don't need to do anything. They're just gonna do so he doesn't really know what they're gonna do. And so it affects the way he makes decisions. So, just keep that in mind. Like, if you don't take the time to really understand it, the digital version kind of handicaps you in that
that's
regard.
that's true, I guess, for every digital version of every game.
Sure, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. But it's worth mentioning, because um, it does affect the decisions that you make. This game is really a game of very small margins sometimes. Of like, I had 2 cards left in my hand, and everyone else in the party was exhausted. Sometimes it can be that close. So understanding what that wolf is going to do could really make the difference between losing and winning.
Elias,
Um,
what is interesting to me is that you are always playing this game 2 players. So you think
I
that's
am. I played the
the
full.
sweet
I don't
spot?
know. Um, if I could, I'd play it 4, but I know what's going to happen. I'm just going to get annoyed because people take so long to pick their cards. Like, I'm really fast. Like, I look at my hand, I'm like, all right, this makes sense from what I know. I feel like this guy's going to go pretty fast based on the cards that we've pulled for this guy. So I'm going to try to go fast. I'm going to try to do this. I do it based on feel. People read all their cards, both top and bottom action, every turn, and then make a decision. And sometimes I want to like,
Yeah,
I want
I
to
would do that. Yeah.
shoot somebody. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like it's just gonna piss me off.
So if you
Um,
find 3 people like you would prefer to play it 4 players.
yeah, I feel like the more characters you have, the more interesting it is because you have different battle goals, different retirement goals. People act differently, and you can always combo each other a lot more. So, in the 2-player game I'm playing on Frosthaven, um, it's very rare that like Dima creates any energies that I can use, right? Because I need dark energy, and basically she doesn't create any dark energy, so I have to create most of my dark energy and use it later myself.
Oh my God,
Whereas
Dima,
since we're playing, her character's just this. But let's
classic
say
Dima.
we're
She's not creating energy.
playing 4 characters online with Mo. A lot of them create different energies that my spellweaver can use. And that's interesting. So I feel like I really wanted to try the banner spear in Frosthaven, but the banner spear depends so much on the formation of you and your allies. It didn't make any sense to pick that in a 2-player game because like we're never going to be in the right place if it's just the 2 of us. So I do like more characters, but I've only played it 2. And the benefit of playing it 2 is, especially if it's with your wife or with your friend and you pick a night a week where you're going to meet on Discord and play the game, is you can get it done. You can play a lot of games. If you're going to get 4 people physically to meet, it's impossible. You're never going to finish the
Yeah,
game.
that's also
So-
very true. Yeah. If you had to stop one of these 2 games, the digital one or the
Don't
physical,
make me pick between Mo and my wife.
no, I mean you can
No.
reverse. So, yeah, just imagine you were playing like digital with Dima and physical with Mo or whatever.
Well, maybe my recommendation will answer that question for you. I would recommend, if you don't know any of these and you want to figure out what's the first one to go to Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Because in Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, you open up pages of a book and the map's already laid out for you. You play in the book, as opposed to building the map scenario every time. So it speeds things up, and you still have to move the NPC characters. So you can learn and figure out how that works, which will help you. Then either go to the digital version or play the physical version using, I've not used this, I don't know if it's any good, but there are a bunch of like helpers of like apps where you like say, I'm playing this scenario, and then it manages all the stuff of like, this is how the enemies move. This is the cards they draw. This is their action this turn. And so you can just put out an iPad and then just do that. So it might help with that. But
That's really cool.
yeah, that's what I'd recommend if you're not a fan of fiddliness and pain in the acidness. But if I had to pick for me, I would always pick the physical version.
Because you're a
And it's
true
just-
board gamer.
It's just because I'm more of a board gamer than a video gamer. Yeah.
Exactly.
At least as I get older. So, at the end of the day, what I'm going to say is, if you don't like Gloomhaven, you're not going to like Frosthaven. Like, don't buy it. But if you like Gloomhaven and you finished it and you want more of it, buy Frosthaven, because it's Gloomhaven in the snow, okay? Like I said years ago, that's all that it is, with a little more interesting story, a little more interesting stuff between missions, and a lot more fiddliness, like to the nth degree pain in the ass fiddliness. Keep all these things in mind, but as much as the story is better, as much as the time between missions means more, and as fiddly as it is, that's not going to make you like or dislike it if you didn't like Gloomhaven. So if you loved Gloomhaven, you're gonna like Frosthaven, and if you didn't like Gloomhaven, none of these are gonna fix it.
But
So
but if you like Jaws of the Lion and you want to go to the next step, should you go to the Gloomhaven
Yes.
or Frosthaven?
Well, no, at that point, you're really just deciding what setting you want more. I would say if you play Jaws of the Lion, probably go to Frosthaven, just because it has more stuff in it and more things you can do. And the characters so far are a bit more interesting to play, and the missions are a bit more interesting. Yeah, I would say overall, Frosthaven is a slight improvement because of things I said, and also going worse because it's more fiddly in a game that was already horrendously fiddly. Point of all this is, I fucking love this game.
Oh,
I love this game, and at the same time, if I didn't have the world's heaviest game table, I would have flipped it 3 times by now. And not because of anything the game does, but because of what a pain in the ass it is to play. Does the video game digital version capture it? Somewhat, but no.
I don't
It
remember
makes
you
it
saying this for any other game.
Maybe Virgin Queen. That's also a pain in the ass to play, but I love it. But the digital version, I would love it. I love it, but like, it's not the same. It's missing a bit of the heart that the board game version gives you, and maybe that heart comes from the pain and suffering of the
around you.
fiddliness. No, of the fiddliness that it causes, like of the such. It's look, this game. I don't know how to express this more clearly. It is the biggest pain in the ass. Like, it's such an annoying game to play. Yeah, and I love it. And that's my thoughts on it. If you hate the fiddliness, the digital version's pretty good. If you're okay with the pain and suffering, if you understand that pain breeds character, and you're okay with that, then go through the pain and play Frosthaven because it's Gloomhaven in the snow.
Frosthaven. A Gloomhaven in the snow.
Like I said many years ago. All right. So that's my rant about Frosthaven and Gloomhaven. It's one that is filled with both joy, pain, suffering, love, and everything else.
Emotions.
Emotions. Anyway, now that I've finished expressing my emotions, you know what time it is, Ippo?
Yes, I think I know.
Of course you do. It's time for the Ippokratic Corner.
Oh my god!
Ippokratic Corner.
Okay. Yes, this is the time for the Hippocratic Corner. It's time to hear the top 5 of this episode. Okay, let's go 2 days back and say that Elias is texting me and he says, we're recording in 2 days and we don't have a topic. And that was the time that I was saying before that I was too busy. I was at work. I was thinking about work all day and I couldn't think clearly. So the first thing that comes in my mind in 2 minutes, actually, because I see the WhatsApp messages, I responded in 2 minutes. So I was thinking for 120 seconds and I came up with this idea of top 5 game components.
I was going to say, this is like your laziest top 5 ever.
Exactly. That's what I thought when I said it to you, because I was thinking, okay, let's get through with this. Let's say something. Yeah, top 5 components. But I was so wrong. That needed so much time.
It was so difficult. It was so difficult.
It was the hardest I have ever done.
Because usually you can think of a game and be like, well, I like this game, so it's going to be there, or it's not going to. But now there are games on my list I don't like. So I had to think about all these games.
Exactly. Yes.
That I couldn't just rule out because I didn't like them.
Yes, because I have my ranking games. I go to the first, 20, 50. You don't need to go all the way down. No, but this time you need to go all the way down and say, yeah, maybe even this very, very bad game has an amazing component. So
what was your criteria? Because again, I ended up having to come up with all sorts of criteria just to narrow down the list because there were so many. I think this was the largest list I had ever made, and I had to cut it down. So
yeah, I was thinking this could be a top 10 easily. I was trying to narrow it down, but I couldn't come with a cohesive rule. And so first I was thinking, okay, there are certain components that I love because they are solving game design problems in a certain way that you were thinking, wow, this guy is a genius.
Yeah.
But also there are components that are so beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh my God, this game is amazing just because of this component. But it doesn't really add to the game mechanically in any way.
Agreed.
So my first idea was, as always, let's go with honorable mentions and make the top. But by doing so, my top 5 was becoming a top 25 or something. So what I will do is in each number, I will just drive you through the process of how I ended up with this component. And by doing so, I will mention some other components or games. So that was my idea. That's a smart way.
You're cheating.
Okay. Yeah, exactly, but in a smart way.
I like it.
What was your thought process?
Well, the first thing I wanted to rule out is I don't like big hunks of plastic. Like Blood Rage, the mechs in Anachrony, and now they're 3 feet tall, these minis that they're minis in quotation marks they're making. And whenever I play a game with that stuff, it just depresses me, man. I just think about environmental, I don't know. the older I get, the more upset I am with how much plastic use is on board games. So just rule that out. Where it's not going to be anything that's like, oh my God, this Cthulhu miniature is 7 feet tall. All right, calm down. Go like those are like I don't know. They're not okay with me. Anyway, the other one is it couldn't be an upgraded piece. Like it had to come stock with the board game. So not in like a deluxe edition or anything like that. And not something that like my friends 3D printed me a Mount Doom with like a light in it. So like the volcano lights coming through for War of the Ring. Like, or like I have these like ship stands for Twilight Imperium to separate what's in the in space versus what's on the planet. Like none of these come with the game, right? So that
Yeah.
can't be included. And it can't. Beautiful is important, but more than that, it had to have functionality, and it's got to be cool. Like it's got to be a cool thing. Like it has to have a cool factor. I also
A
have to
cool
have
fact.
played it. So like there's certain games like Princess Jing is this game where you're like one of the characters has like mirrors and you're moving these pieces and you're trying to find Princess Jing because she's facing the other direction. I've never played Princess Jing. I've seen it be played at Essen, but I didn't play it. So I didn't
Oh,
include, I had to have played it because I got to know how it affects the game, right? Uh, Sorry, a couple more things because I really had a lot to load. Next, couldn't be a miniature game, had to be a board game because in Golem Arcana they have these awesome light pens where you can like use the pen, touch your miniature, touch who you're going to attack. It'll calculate range if you have line of sight if they're on
oh,
difficult terrain. I love that thing, but it's a miniatures game. And then lastly, and this was the hardest to do, I excluded like art and layout as so like Nemo's War, the board itself lends a
yeah.
ton of functionality to the game. You feel like you're handling the Nautilus, right? You're planning your routes. You know where you're going. You know where the ships are. You're
Mm.
tracking where they are. It, it's very important as a component, but it's the art and layout that make it important. And the only way for me to get to 5 was to get rid of that. So I feel like that's its own category. So I removed that
I
from
don't have a
from the
board, but that's a gray zone. You're right, and also
yeah.
you're also right that that's our next top five
What
best
happened
board.
to top 5 games to play when stuck in a Tesla with a flat tire?
Oh
I'm
yeah.
still waiting on that one. So what's your honorable mention, Ippo?
Okay, so I'm gonna start, as I said before, with number five. In number
Wow,
five,
no honorable mention?
I mean, I'm gonna mention some components during
All right,
the
I have one
presentation.
honorable mention I
Oh, okay,
gotta
sorry, yeah.
mention. Yeah. This game,
Just
it's not that
one?
cool. Yeah, just
Congratulations.
no. Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I slipped like 5 things into my criteria. I mentioned like 5 other components that I thought about, but anyway,
True.
um, this isn't a cool thing, but it's just because I've owned both versions of the game with and without it. The difference it made was massive. So the ghost screen in Mysterium. So I used to own Tamanichi de Mostvo, which was the Portal Games version, and I was very resistant to buying Mysterium because I was like, I want to support the original publisher, blah blah blah. But when I bought it, it was such a huge upgrade to the experience of being the ghost because it was super hard to manage all the decks of cards as the ghost with they were just sitting in piles in front of you. When the ghost screen came out, everything was straight in front of you. This is the blue players, this, and this. Clear for me. Everything's good from there. So it just made it was pretty with this with the sparrows or crows sitting on top. It was good looking and it made the gameplay much more enjoyable. So I have to mention it as an honorable mention, the ghost screen from Mysterium.
Oh, shout out to the publisher then.
I have no idea the publisher of the Libelud, maybe? I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so I will go on with my number five. So number five, it's a game from 1995. With
Wow.
yeah, and the reason that it's there is because the impression the component made to me is still in my mind. The game is El Grande.
Oh, man, the tower?
Yes, and it's an area majority game. So you have colored wooden cubes that you place on a map of Spain, and you're trying to get majority in each of the regions. So there is a region. So at least this was, I guess, in the designer's mind, that there should be a region where the players don't really know what exactly is going on. And how are we going to do that? So the basic idea, I guess, today would have been, let's have a bag and people throw their cubes in the bag. Or let's have cards and people will just flip cards next to the region. But no, these guys, they came up with the idea of El Castillo, the tower. So the tower, the component, it's a black four-sided cardboard, which is tall enough in order when you throw the wooden cubes inside, nobody can see what's inside. And it was so impressive to me because, remember, it's like, I think I played this game first in 2004 or something. So back then you always had a board and pieces on a board and things were going on. But you have now this very tall component and you are throwing pieces inside. And you try to remember how many of your pieces are inside or how many of the other players. And this really affects the game. But at the same time, there are so many that you cannot really track. And it's still in my mind. The Castillo from El Grande is my number 5.
Very interesting. I thought about it because not for El Grande, but they've used similar ones in Wallenstein, Shogun, Eternals, Infernal. I can't remember what it's called. Immortals. I don't know. And then there's also the same tower in Amerigo. But in Amerigo, it's used differently. It's used to tell you what actions and how many of the actions are available to you. So I like the use in Amerigo the most, but I don't know. I feel like the tower is a pain in the ass mostly.
I feel the same about the tower in Wallenstein, where they had this crazy component made, which was very interesting. But I think in the end, it didn't work.
Yeah. No, I'm not a fan of it. But yeah, I like it. I could see where you're going. I thought about it. It never made my list, but it crossed my mind. Very nice. My number 5 was a lot more like it's a very simple component. It's a game I don't really like. I had it. I think I either sold it to you or traded it to you or gave it to you. It's a real-time game called Stellar Conflict, right? And in this game,
oh my God,
you have a deck of cards, different factions, and you're throwing your cards onto a table that's your play space and like sort of positioning them. And then it takes 1 minute to play and 20 minutes to score this game. You throw it down, and then based on like the initiative and where you place them and the direction in which they're firing, you sort it out. But what do I think is cool is they use rubber bands, like a rubber band that's just been cut, so it's a long string, as lasers. And they come in all these different colors. And so when you see like, oh, this green laser is shooting in this direction, you place the rubber band onto that laser so you know the direction, and then you just stretch it out to see if you have line of sight and if you can hit that character. And I thought that was a very clever way to use rubber bands, and like it didn't. And I gained a lot of pleasure out of using those rubber bands to check the scoring. So
it's funny that when you described your criteria, you said about coolness. And I was thinking that's not objective. Well, what kind of criteria? And when you were describing the rubber bands, I was thinking that was so cool.
Exactly.
Remember that? That? Yeah, and I think what was just cool looking at us while we were playing.
I think what was cool about it is that it wasn't fancy, right? It wasn't a laser pointer, or it wasn't like a special Fantasy Flight ruler that you had to buy. It's rubber bands. If it cuts, just go get another rubber band and cut it down the middle, and just like stretch it out and say, "Oh, I hit you with this." I thought it was fun, and it made what was a game that should honestly, I mean, was probably like a 1 out of 10. Like it made it like a 4 out of 10. So I liked the game. I enjoyed it. I didn't like the game. I liked it because of the rubber bands, and
It was
unfortunately, the rubber
cool.
bands couldn't keep it in my collection. But the rubber bands from Stellar Conflict are my number 5.
Okay, that's really a great memory for me. My number 4 now. You already said a lot better than me that we don't like miniatures, and I was thinking about it. That I mean, I don't like miniatures. Not only because I don't, it's not actually the aesthetics, it's also practically that I cannot really distinguish the one monster from the other when I see it. So it's very hard for me. I was thinking like I really, in Dead of Winter, I really prefer the standees where there are
I
color.
think it's because we don't paint miniatures. Like if you paint a miniature, it's much clearer who's who.
Yeah, 100% true. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't have the time to do that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about meeples. And the first thing that came to my mind is that it's amazing that there is a game that uses 6 different meeples, and that makes the game amazing. And that game is chess.
Oh no, you
That's
had to
not
include it somehow.
that's not my number 4 though. But it
Oh,
but it crossed my mind, and I
I
was thinking,
love that you just call chess pieces meeples. That's
I mean,
hilarious.
if you if you think about it, it's just wooden pieces with a different shape. So my favorite shape of a wooden piece
Uh,
is in game Camel Up.
the camels.
Yes, I was thinking these guys they had this very simple problem. It's a racing game, and when you are arriving in a spot, if you arrive last, then you play first in the next round. So they
Yes.
made these camels with a special curve in their back, where each camel can stand on top of the other,
I
and
think
you
they're
can
called
have.
the humps.
Oh, thank you. So, so it's so amazing that like all of the camels, I think it's a 5-player game or a 6-player game. So
Yeah.
all 6 of them can be on the top of the other 5. So it's an amazing idea. The concept is great. Each camel has a different color, of course, and it's my number 4.
It's interesting that uh, I thought of coming up for a second. I thought about the pyramid, right? You know how the dice are in the pyramid, and I was thinking that's just more annoying than anything. So I'm glad you went with the meeples of the camels instead of the pyramid for Camelot. But it's a very interesting choice. I wouldn't agree with it. I don't gain much
What about chess?
satisfaction.
What about chess,
Chess is a
Johnny?
better pick for me. But no, but I respect it. I think anyway. Mine's even simpler, okay, than a meeple, but also way cooler because you know me with the cool factor. I'm the cool guy on this
You're the cool guy
podcast.
in the classroom.
So I backed this game on Kickstarter, and it's the game I'm most proud of that I backed on Kickstarter because it was made by a dude in his garage with a laser cutter. It came in a wooden box, and it's a good light economic game, Yakitori.
Oh
And in
yeah.
yakitori, your street vendors making and selling yakitori, and you have to buy ingredients when they're low on the market and sell them when there's demand, right? And that's the basic game. But the way that you signify you have skewers, and then you get these blocks of like pork, chicken, veggie, whatever, and you slide them onto the skewers. And then as time goes on, they go further and skewer, which signifies how like overcooked it is or how cooked it is. And things get more valuable based on how cooked they are, because you don't want you don't want veggies to be overcooked, you don't want meat to be undercooked, and so on. And you're using the skewers, and then when you cook them, you flip the skewer around. So it's literally like you're a yakitori person flipping the skewer around. And I was thinking he could have just given you a player board where you take the things and just move them along and then flip the token when it's cooked. But instead you get a skewer, and it just gives you so much more pleasure in the game. It serves a function. You get to like flip it as if you're flipping, yakitori. And it takes the game from a decent, good, light economic game to a really fun, quirky, awesome thing that I'm so proud to own. There it is.
Number 4.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Yakitori was in my honorable mentions. As you said, the skewer is amazing. The reason that it didn't make it to the list is because I didn't like the rest of how the skewer is combined with the pieces. So the guy had to make wooden pieces in order to get on the skewer, and the game was not beautiful, and I thought that it was more fiddly that it should be and things like that. So I didn't practically. I thought it was.
I can understand that there's no actual art, but remember that the whole game is just laser cut wood, right? Like there is no other art in the game, right? So I don't think that if he didn't do the skewers, he would have had art instead. I think it was done in his garage.
True. So, yeah, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 3. Where's my number 3? Oh, yeah, I found it. Okay, so when I was thinking about these games, I was thinking about the magnifying glass in Micro Macro. Have you ever played Micro Macro?
No.
It's basically. Have you seen these books? Where's Wally?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's exactly that. It's a huge poster, like 1 by 1 meter.
So where's Waldo for our American audience?
Thank you. And there are things going on the poster, and you're trying to find out that there is a story unfolding if you just go through the right moments and the right roads of this city that is depicted in the poster. And the game comes with. I thought it was coming with a magnifying glass, but then I realized, no, I bought the magnifying glass.
Thank you for wasting all our time.
Exactly, because the game actually comes with a small plastic thing that tries to magnify things, but you cannot see anything.
Got it.
But because of that, what came to my... See how I'm mentioning other games?
Yeah, you're doing good.
What came to my mind is that my favorite component that I was so excited to play the game just to use this component is the compass in Treasure Island. And when I say the compass, actually I don't mean the compass. I mean it was named the caliper tool.
Yeah,
it was the tool to draw a circle.
Yeah.
So you were using a tool to draw a circle on a map, on a board actually, with a marker to find the treasure, because you are in a treasure island. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So that my number 3 is the caliper.
Well, my number 3 is the compass and calipers from Treasure Island. We have the same number 3. I wrote cartography tools from Treasure Island. The compass, the calipers, the rulers, everything. That game, it made you feel like you were looking for treasure on a treasure map. I thought it was super cool. The one thing I wish it had was better markers. So people have figured it out on BGG because the markers aren't clear on the board. So people have figured out that if you get liquid chalk markers, that looks super clear, and you can get ones that fit the compass and everything. So could not agree more. My number 3 is the compass from Treasure Island.
It's really a game that you can buy just to use the components.
Oh yeah, 100%. We tried so hard to demo it because I wanted to buy it, but I had limited luggage space when we were in. I only had one full suitcase of games, so and then all my clothes were in my backpack. So we only had limited space when we were at Essen, and we could never get a seat. Every day, multiple times we tried. So in the end, I just bought it because I was like, "What's the worst that could happen? I'm gonna have the compass and calipers, and it's gonna be a fun experience." I love cartography. I don't understand it very well, and I don't, but if a book is about maps, not like Ippo. Ippo loves actual maps, but if like the story is based on something hidden in a map, I'm like, all right, I'm buying it. I'm gonna read it. So,
I'm glad you did.
yeah, and I think we both kind of like maps for different reasons, but we both like maps, and it definitely is the closest thing to making you feel like, as opposed to the game, the Cartographers, which feels nothing like map making, or what I imagine map making. This one feels like you're a pirate looking for treasure on this island. So, very cool. Treasure Island, also my number 3.
Okay, so moving on to my number 2. You cannot escape. It's very hard to escape in this top 5 from Jolkin. Jolkin has these gears where there are tribes that place their workers on giant connected gears, and as the gears rotate, they take the workers to different action spots, so they make different actions. So it's a very weird concept where it's worker placement, but every round your meeples are in different space because of this gear. So the mechanism is amazing, the component is great, but I feel that the same job or a similar job is really done better in the game Noria.
Wow. Really?
Where there is this, it's more cool for me. Okay, maybe it's not done better, but it's really more.
No, I mean,
cool.
I love Noria, but what, really? Anyway, go ahead.
It's the wheel there. It's the Noria has this mechanism that they call wheel building. So each player has an action wheel consisting of 3 rings with slots for a number of different action discs. So over the course of the game, players try to obtain new discs and manipulate the rings of the wheel to optimize their action selection.
It's a very good pick. Good pick.
I don't want to spend more time explaining how exactly this works because I really don't remember, and it's kind of
but basically by manipulating the 3 levels of it. So each of the 3 levels rotate independently, and they have a different number of axes that have actions on them. You can line up different combinations of actions. So you're manipulating and building this 3-level wheel over time to enhance and be more efficient with your actions. And it is a wonderful mechanism and a beautiful component. I think that's an excellent pick. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm a little jealous that I didn't think of that one. I didn't think of it at all. So even now when you said Noria, I was thinking, what's like Zulkin and Noria? And I was like, oh my God, you get the whole wheel in front of you. Yeah.
That was my number 2, Noria, the
excellent
wheel.
pick. So my number 2 is the gears from Zulkin.
Oh, see? I'm very excited.
At least I know
our number 1 now.
Our number 1s are going to be different because you haven't played this. So
okay.
I think, yeah. So the gears from Zulkin are amazing because everything Ippo said about moving workers on 5 different action zones simultaneously, fucking cool. But on top of that, the game is about the calendar. The game is called Zulkin the Mind Calendar. And this game integrates time as a central concept to the game. I adore it. And and the fact that it's got like gears is even cooler. I think when I was just starting out in the hobby, Tom Vassell and the Dice Tower was like, I was so disappointed because you only move it a little bit. I wanted to like spin it really fast. And I'm like, no, we're not like, this is not like,
I'm gonna guess he has changed his mind.
maybe, but you can find toys that you can spin very fast, and they're
He's
great.
really more mature now, I think.
Is he? Okay, I hope
Yeah.
so. Well, I haven't noticed dice are in years, but the point is, if you just rotate that central cog, 5 different action wheels rotate at different paces using the magic of gears, and it's really wonderful. I could not respect it more, and it's one of the few games I wish I still had, especially that I painted the gears on my copy. But I think I sold it to Diego, and I kind of
Yeah.
regret getting rid of that one. So, because it's not the same playing it on Board Game Arena. Like, you need to feel that central cog rotating.
Yeah.
It's part of the magic. So, Gears from Zulkin, and really good pick with Noria. I really respect that pick. It would have made my list for sure. Definitely better than the rubber bands and Stellar Conflict. So,
You just made me think that I want to play Zolkin again. And since you mentioned that Diego has the game, okay, Diego,
yeah.
if you're
And
listening to
he's
this
got
podcast,
and it's got painted gears, which I painted myself.
which was amazing. Yeah, I still
Yeah,
remember
they
that.
look really good.
So
All right,
yes,
number one.
number one, we really have a different number one. And it's kind of hard for me to explain why this component is in number one. And the only reason I can explain it with is because when you say top 5 components, it was the first thing that came to my mind. And every time somebody says beautiful components, this is the first time that comes to my mind. And it's a meeple from a game. It's an actual meeple in a game of what like the elephant in John Company or the panda in Takenoko, but this is really more beautiful, and it's the behemoth in Feudum.
Interesting.
So this again, I guess this goes back to emotions as it did with the El Grande game, where the impression that this meeple made to me is still in my mind. I mean, the only way that I can describe this is that it's Behemoth is a big monster on a board
He's
that
adorable.
it's kind of adorable, kind of strange. It wears stripes, and you need to go and Google Behemoth, Behemoth, in the game Feudum, Feudum, and just tell for yourselves.
I
That
think
was my number one.
I think Feudum is one of the most beautiful games ever. Like, it's up there.
For me, it is.
And
Yes.
I tried to integrate it somehow, but the Behemoth, you sometimes forget it's on the board. Like, it's not as like integral to the game. Like, it could have been a token, right? So I didn't
For sure,
feel like
yeah.
it added to the value of the game other than just being beautiful.
No.
But then by that rationale, there were so many games that also came to my mind, so I had to remove that. But I love the game, and any way we can include it. I even thought about trying to include the push-pull system of the guilds in Feudum as like part of the component, but it felt like a stretch. So anyway, I like that you included it, but I don't have it on mine. But beautiful stuff. Weird LSD trip, Baroque dream art in that miniature, and it's just wonderful. Well done. My number one component is from a game I hate, and not just hate. I went on a rant about this game on this the rant of all rants, because I spent over $200 on this game as a gift to my wife, and it was a piece of trash that barely functioned, that required the use. It required someone to spend some development time with it, and it's very clear that nobody did. This is the game, the Enigma Box, right? Which was my biggest disappointment ever. But the piece in it is the Anubis figure in the game. So this kind of combines a lot of the other stuff we're talking about. So the Anubis figure is a figurine of Anubis, the Egyptian god, holding over his head a ring, like a circular ring over his head. And in the game, you have this map that you're working with, and you have, cartography tools like rulers and stuff. And one of the puzzles, the Anubis puzzles, you figure out a specific location on the map based on the hints and clues and stuff that you figure out. You place him on that location, and then you rotate him in a certain direction based on another thing that you figure out. Once you have him in that location and that location, here's the cool part, Ippo. You look through the circle that he's holding on top of his head, and that gives you a location on the map that you have to go to. Like the functional shape of that thing, after you figure out where to place him or where to point him, you stare through the thing he's holding over his head, and that opens up. I felt like Indiana Jones, man. I was like, what is happening? Are you looking for a picture? Is that what you're going on?
I saw it. Yeah, I found it. It's like Batman's mask or something.
I guess, but he's holding this circle, and then you use all this cartography tools and rulers and stuff. The clues in the game suck, which is part of the issue. Like the actual like logic behind it is fuzzy sometimes, and you're like, well, I got to this number. It doesn't feel like an endpoint, but I guess we should try it since we're here. And so that's kind of why the game failed, because it needed a developer for me. But that icon to me was just the most I have enjoyed a component in a game. Placing that icon, rotating that statue, and staring through the circle over his head to see where on the map it was referring to unlock our next clue was incredible. And that's why it was beautiful. It had the map thing involved in it. It was functionally integral to the game. It made the game experience better. And it was actually the only thing I liked about that game. But boy, I sure did like that mini. So there you go. The Anubis figurine from the Enigma box is my number one.
Amazing. Thank you. That was a great top 5. And actually, I just realized that I had some honorable mentions because I had them in my bottom of my list. And one of them is Yakitori. Nice. That we talked about. The other one is Tikal. Have you ever played Tikal?
I have.
It's an action points game from 1999. The same designer with El Grande, which is Wolfgang Kramer. It's a German designer who has the age of my father. So he's 81 now. And, and the guy in Tikal, Tikal is a game about the Mexican pyramids. So you are laying down.
So what do you like, the pyramids or the?
So listen. So you have tiles that you lay down, and when you're building the first layer of the pyramid, it's a bigger tile. It's a square tile, but it's bigger. So when you do the second layer, it's smaller, and as you go up, it's smaller. So it creates the pyramid, it creates an Aztec pyramid with just cardboard tiles.
Yeah.
So how amazing. Remember again, we're talking 1999. So it's somewhat
less impressive than building a pyramid with stone. But I suppose...
It's very cheap and very impressive at the same time for again, relevant to the era that this came out.
I also thought about Tobago. Do you remember that game Tobago?
Yes.
The island it has
I thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Easter the Moai statues, Moai-esque statues, they rotate, and wherever they're pointing at, that's where the next I think it's like some sort of like necklace or something that gives you special abilities. That's the next place it's going to be found on the shores. So it's like, oh, they're, but at the same time, I felt like I just liked it because it looked super cool as a Moai statue. So
What is that? Wait, when you said Tobago, I was thinking about the game where there is a boat in the middle and you jump from the ship to
oh
the.
no, not that Tobago. Tobago is the one we played. You've only played it on BGA, I think, but I've played it. I own the game.
Oh,
It's the one where you're figuring out where the clues are on the board by playing cards to remove options. So this treasure is not within 3 spaces of a palm tree, and then you're driving your truck there
oh,
to excavate it.
don't
We played it
remember
on
playing it.
BGA. It wasn't that fun, but if you look at the Moai statues on it, they rotate from turn to turn, and yeah, it's super cool looking. But I couldn't really get it past the fact that it looks super cool, like
I was
functionally.
considering Tobago because you had this little boat that people are jumping from the island to the boat and then to the ship, or from the ship to the boat. But I think this component is in a deluxe edition. It's the basic game. It's just a board.
Which
So that
Tobago are you talking about? The party game?
sorry, it's not Tobago. It's Tortuga.
Tortuga, that's the one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's out.
Tortuga 1667, right? The one
Yes.
that's in a book. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Everdell has this amazing
Eh,
tree that it's completely useless and annoying.
annoying because you can't see like
Yeah,
stuff. Like it's
but
so
still
stupid.
beautiful.
Very beautiful. But if it doesn't help the gameplay, I have no interest in it. So
So
yeah.
these were my honorable mentions. Plus maybe wavelength. I like the way that they solved the problem of how to narrow
Yeah.
down
It's
the.
okay. It's okay. It feels flimsy. If I was gonna pick anything there, I'd pick something like what's it called? Decrypto. Because you have the cards that you can't read unless you slide into the you
That's
know.
also kind of useless. I mean,
Yeah, which is why I didn't pick it or put it on my honorable mentions, Ippo. Because I'm a
and
grown up, all right? I'm mature. All right?
you are amazing. You had an amazing top five once again. For our
As did
listeners,
you.
I want to say that please don't forget to let us know what's your top five game components. And you can do that over at our board game, what the geek,
Guild.
sorry, it disappeared from my notes disappeared. At our board game geek guild, Elias. And and you can find the link to that in our episode descriptions. I'm not gonna say this
You're not going to say it?
bad words that you put in my
Uh,
notes.
to quote
No.
Ippo from episode 35, you morons.
It's a love and hate relationship with our listeners.
Relationship. All right. Well, you morons, that brings us to the end of this tabletop session. Thank you for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Tabletop Sessions. Join the conversation, share a fun story of board game shenaniganism, and let us know what your top 5 was this month over at our Board Game Geek Guild. And as Ippo said, you can find the link to both of these in the episode description. As I said at the top of the episode, we also started a YouTube channel where you can listen to these podcasts for free and watch some gaming sessions of me swearing at inanimate objects because I'm losing. We'll be back in a month. And until then, to quote one of my favorite writers, God damn it, you've got to be kind. Say bye, Ippo.
Bye.
Tabletop, 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 top. Tabletop, top. Tabletop, 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 top. Tabletop. Tabletop. Tabletop, top.